Chapter 7. Preparing to move. A month and a half passed since the shopping trip in Amand. During that time, Miharu, Oki, and Masato had remained shut away inside the rock house, cramming the common tongue of the straw region into their heads. Since nothing could proceed if they weren't able to speak the language, they prioritized learning the language over everything else, beating words and phrases into their heads from morning to night, even during meals. While there is plenty to be said about the number of hours needed to acquire a foreign language to a conversational standard, Ryo's Japanese guests were able to study the straw common tongue for over 400 hours over the span of a month and a half that culminated to 9 hours a day on average. That number became much higher once their own voluntary self-study time during breaks was included. In the beginning, a lot of the time was spent explaining the grammar structures in Japanese, but as time passed, more emphasis was placed on conversation. The lessons proved to be successful, as the three were able to converse to an optimal degree. As the eldest, Miharu showed the most remarkable improvement. As long as her conversation partner spoke slowly, she was able to reply with halting speech. On one morning after a month and a half had passed, Ryo and Miharu were cooking breakfast in the kitchen and speaking to each other using what Miharu had learned. "Haruto, can you give fry pan?" she asked Ryo in a clumsy straw tongue. "Sure, here you go. Thank you very much. Bacon egg or fried egg? Which do you want today?" Ryo thought for a moment before making his request with a faint smile. "Let's see. I want to eat a fried egg today." "Understood. Leave it to me." Miharu picked up the frying pan and pumped her fists in a cute gesture. "You can say quite a few things now. It's all thanks to Haruto." "It's because you worked hard, Miharu." "No. It's because you were teaching constantly." "Since the three of you have learned quite a few words at this point, I'm thinking it's about time we moved from this field." "Moved?" "Yes," Ryo interrupted, speaking in Japanese. "This conversation is about to get complicated, so I'll use Japanese now. Staying here like this makes it hard to move around, and that's ineffective for gathering more information about your friends. There are some trustworthy people I know that we may be able to rely on, but I'll need to ask them first. The probability is low, but there's even a chance these people may know something about you guys." "I see. If possible, I'd like to ask those people to look after you while I finish some personal errands of my own and gather information. What do you think?" "I'm sure you have your own life to concern yourself with, so it's okay if you put us second. We'll let you decide what you need to do," Miharu said apologetically, bowing her head to Ryo. "All right. Then we'll move closer to Amand today. I'll have you guys wait there while I pay a visit to my acquaintances. It'll take roughly 2 weeks for me to return, so I'll leave Asia behind to protect you, and if you need anything during that time you can feel free to go shopping in Amand, too," Ryo said with a slight smile. He wasn't shameless enough to suddenly bring Miharu and the others along to the spirit folk village and just leave them there for the spirit folk to look after. The spirit folk had already cut off contact with the outside world, so it was possible that they would refuse, but he would go through all the proper steps to make the request. "I'm sorry for making you have to consider every little thing. As you've been looking after us, I won't say that we'll be fine, but I'm sure we'll somehow manage ourselves, especially with Ara-chan here. So, you can leave the house to us." "Okay, thank you." Ryo nodded amicably in an effort to avoid making Miharu worry any more than she already was. Afterward, they had their breakfast, then moved the house to the middle of a forest on the outskirts of Amand. There had been rumors of people going missing along the western road the last time Ryo had gathered information in Amand, so he set up the house near the east side of the city instead. The next morning, Ryo dressed himself in his black wyvern armor and prepared to leave. "All right then, Asia, I'm leaving everyone to you," he said in the living room. Asia nodded quietly. "Sure." While she looked like a fragile young woman, Asia was actually a humanoid spirit ranked high class or greater. Since she could use the same level of spirit arts as Ryo, there was no one better for the role of a bodyguard. "I'm going to leave this spirit stone filled with essence with you while I'm gone, so you can use this to replenish your magic essence if anything happens," Ryo said, handing Asia a pebble-sized emerald green spirit stone that glowed. It was possible to store an enormous amount of essence in a green spirit stone, even one of this size. The time-space cache Ryo received from the spirit folk used a stone of a similar size, too. "Understood. I tied a temporary path to Miharu just in case, so it'll be okay," Asia said, taking the spirit stone. With Miharu. Really? Ryo's eyes widened, and he looked at Miharu. Yes. Apparently, we have quite a large amount of magic essence within us. I don't really get it, but I told Ara-chan she could use whatever she needed. Miharu didn't seem to fully understand it all yet, but nodded firmly anyway. I see. I'm relieved, then. Ryo was interested in how the three of them had a large amount of essence, too, but was glad that that was the case so he didn't have to worry as much about them. Please go safely, Haruto, Miharu said. Yes. You don't have to see me off from here, he replied. Have a safe trip, Haruto. See you later, Haruto. Oki and Masato offered their words of parting to Ryo as well. Thanks. Make sure you two listen to Miharu and Aishia. Ahaha, we know. That's right. We're not kids anymore. Oki and Masato nodded with strained smiles. You're still a brat, though, Oki noted. And there's only 1 year difference between us, Masato retorted, starting their usual bickering. Ryo watched Oki and Masato get up to their usual antics with a smile. Looks like you'll be all right to me. I'll be going, now, he said, and turned on his heel. He was relieved to see the youngest of the three showing no signs of worry. Ryo opened the front door and waved back at Miharu and the others, who were waving with all their might. Finally, he looked at Aishia with an entrusting smile, before the door shut. The three of you need to study until Haruto returns, Aishia said. So we're doing the same old thing even with Haruto out. Masato hung his head gloomily. We don't have a choice. If we can't speak the language, it's too dangerous to even go outside. You're the most behind, so work harder, Oki said with an exasperated expression. Foo. Let's show Haruto how much we've improved when he comes back, Miharu said with a smile. Once Ryo stepped outside, he spoke the activation spell to use the time-space cache on his left wrist. Dissolvo. The air above his hand warped, and a jade-green spirit stone appeared. While it was the same color as the time-space cache, its size was larger than the other spirit stone. Transilio. Ryo activated the spirit stone in his hand, the teleportation crystal. The air around Ryo and the teleportation crystal instantly started to distort in an exaggerated way, and in the next moment, Ryo disappeared. The view in front of Ryo's eyes changed immediately, too. Looks like I made it back safely, Ryo murmured to himself. Gentle rays of sunlight filtered through the trees of the forest scenery spread before him. It was his first time actually using the teleportation crystal, so he was surprised at how the scenery had changed in an instant. Thankfully, it seemed as though he had been able to teleport to the correct coordinates. The crystal changed from green to turquoise. As the amount of magic essence inside a spirit stone increased, the color changed from colorless to blue. As it continued to increase, the colors changed to turquoise, leaf green, then finally jade green, so quite a large amount of essence was used. I don't think I should be that far from the village, but where is this exactly? Ryo put the teleport crystal away into his pocket and smiled at the vaguely familiar scenery. Then, he kicked off from the ground and rose into the air to check his current location, breaking through the canopy and into the skies above the forest. I'm outside of the residential area, but pretty close to the village, about 1 or 2 minutes away by flight. At this distance, they may have detected the distortion in essence from the teleportation sorcery I used. Someone may have set out to get him already. With that in mind, Ryo began to fly toward the residential district visible in the distance at a leisurely pace. Sure enough, a group of people were waiting in the skies above the village. There were several warriors of the village, with Orphea among them. See, it is Ryo after all. You came back fairly quickly this time, she said with a happy smile as she approached. Hello, Orphea. I have a little news this time. And a request, he said somewhat apologetically. I see. Then we should hurry to the elders immediately. Follow me, it's this way. Orphea seemed to sense that Ryo had an important matter to discuss and began to lead him away without asking any further questions. The villagers around them followed. Thank you very much. The truth is, my contract spirit woke up, Ryo said as he flew alongside Orphea. Hey, really? Orphea asked with widened eyes. The spirit sleeping within Ryo had been a humanoid spirit, after all. To Orphea, who held spirits in high regard, the awakening of Ryo's spirit was a big deal. Yes. Due to certain circumstances, she isn't present right now, but I'll discuss more about that as well as my request with the elders. Orphea nodded. I see. I'm sure everyone will be shocked. Let's hurry over. She watched Ryo's expression carefully before raising her flight speed by a small amount. Ryo and the others landed before the giant treehouse that was used as the town hall of the village. Latifa was waiting there, along with Sarah, the silver werewolf, and Alma, the elder dwarf. Latifa. Sarah and Alma too. Ryo's eyes widened when he spotted the girls. Ahihi. There was a big pulse of mana, so everyone was excited that Oni-chan might have come back. We saw Oni-chan flying in the air and hurried here, Latifa explained proudly. She must have run, as she was still out of breath. The two of them were in such a hurry, it was a huge pain. Alma interjected with a wry smile. Why you re the one who decided to come along, Alma? Sarah added on in embarrassment. Orphea smiled. Fufu, so the two of you both wanted to see Ryo again as quickly as possible. MRGH. Sarah and Alma groaned in embarrassment, but their lack of denial implied it was the truth. Oni-chan, you came back quickly this time. Latifa beamed a smile full of purity and innocence. Yeah. My contract spirit woke up, and I have a lot of other things I wanted to discuss, Ryo answered with a faintly strained smile. Why your spirit has awoken? Sarah and Alma were both taken aback. Yes. She's not here right now, but I'll bring her along next time. In that case, we have to hurry to the head elders quickly. They should be upstairs, Sarah urged, and the group stepped into the town hall. Roughly half an hour later, in the meeting room on the top floor of the hall, Ryo faced the council of elders that had assembled on short notice. Latifa and the other girls remained gathered in a corner of the room. So, is it true? Lord Ryo's contract spirit has awoken? Sildora, the high elf seated in the middle of the three head elders, asked. Yes. She woke up just a month and a half ago. A month and a half ago would be the same time as when that vast torrent of Odin mana surged from the direction of the Straw region, Sildora surmised with a contemplative look. The pillars of light hadn't been visible from the position of the village, but the aftermath of the Odin mana torrent was something that they clearly detected. So the waves reached here as well, Ryo said with a wry smile. Was that surge possibly related to your contract spirit's awakening, Lord Ryo? Asked the Werfox head elder Ursula. No. I am not sure. However, the surge of Odin mana that everyone felt was most likely created via the sorcery of the 6 pillars of light. Do continue, Ursula pressed. I believe the true form of those 6 pillars of light to be a type of time-space sorcery, something that can summon humans from other worlds into this one. There are religions in the Straw region that believe in the deities called the 6 wise gods. According to their ancient texts, it is said that 6 heroes who played an active role in the Divine War will return once more alongside 6 pillars of light. That is why the rumor of the heroes returning is spreading throughout Straw like wildfire. Heroes, you say? The elders in the room burst into a commotion after hearing it was possible that heroes from the Divine War had returned. Ryo glanced over at Latifa, her eyes were round as she carefully watched him. Like Ryo, she also had memories of a life in another world. She must have been curious as to whether the other world involved was Earth. I'll explain everything to Latifa later, Ryo thought to himself with a strained smile. Does everyone know of the tales of the heroes passed down within the Straw region? He asked the elders sitting across from him. Even us spirit folk retain records of the Divine War that unfolded over 1,000 years ago. It affected our ancestors, who lived toward the center of the continent, after all. It is said that they fought to drive away the evil forces, Sildora replied. In order to assist the upper high-class spirit participating in the war, the village sent warriors out toward Straw, too. Though most of those, including the upper high-ranked spirit, never returned. It was said that the heroes appeared toward the final stages of the Divine War, but by then, the upper high-class spirit was gone, and many of the warriors from our village had lost their lives, Ursula continued. So you don't know any of the specifics, then? Ryo asked inquisitively. Indeed, we do not know much about the heroes. The 7 wise ones. No, they were already 6 by that time, so they were what the humans called the 6 wise gods. Those 6 wise gods had seemingly appeared from nowhere, and were all equipped with divine weapons. That is all we know, Dominic said contemplatively. I have been wondering this for a while, but why do you seem so certain of the existence of a 7th god? Rio asked. No one in the Straw region seems to acknowledge anything like a seventh god. Because our ancestors encountered the one who named themselves the seventh god during the beginning and the end of the Divine War. They visited the village early during the war and requested help from the upper high-class spirit of the time to fight. Their goal for visiting the village toward the end of the war wasn't recorded, but it was noted that they were already exiled from the other six by that time, Dominic explained. The seventh god didn't leave any information about the heroes. That I am not sure of, since it was not recorded. Why do you believe those heroes were summoned here from another world, Lord Rio? Even if you say they appeared from outside of this world, I find it hard to believe, Ursula asked Rio somewhat suspiciously. Because I am currently looking after 2 girls and a boy who used to live in that world. Ursula's eyes widened. My word. So those 3 are the heroes? Rio shook his head. No, they are not. They were in a location irrelevant to the Pillars of Light. It seemed like they were in the company of 2 other people just moments before they were summoned here, and they claimed to witness distortions in the air similar to summoning magic. I believe the other 2 were the ones summoned as the heroes, while the 3 under my protection were merely dragged along for the ride. You were able to communicate with otherworlders? Sildora asked without a moment's delay. It was a well-justified question. I was. Or rather, to be more precise, I already knew the language they spoke. With a completely serious expression, Rio answered honestly, but vaguely. He wanted to be as truthful as possible to the people he was about to ask a favor from. He already owed the spirit folk so much, and could no longer deceive them this far into their relationship. What do you mean by that? The elders all looked confused. The only one who understood was Latifa, who was speechless with shock. Please forgive me. I doubt my reasons would be believable even if I explained them here, and they are greatly off-topic to the current issue at hand. For now, could I ask that you take what I say at face value and accept that I was able to communicate with them? If necessary, I will explain further at a later date, Rio said, bowing his head deeply at the elders. I do not mind. I want to hear more about your contract spirit, too. Ursula seemed to comprehend Rio's feelings and readily agreed. The other elders exchanged looks before nodding hesitantly. All right. Then, is your contract spirit currently with those 3 people? Sildora asked, changing the subject. Rio nodded in acknowledgement. Yes. Her name is Asia, and I'm having her stay back in Straw to protect them, he replied somewhat apologetically. Does Lady Asia know anything about the summoning of the heroes? Or did you find out anything about her identity? Sildora asked. No, Asia knew nothing. Not about why she was contracted to me, who she was, or even her own name. The name Asia was something I gave to her. Rio shook his head uneasily. I see. Well, that seems fine. A high-ranked spirit has awakened. For us, it is an exceedingly auspicious event. Lady Asia. You named her with the ancient language of us spirit folk, yes? Warm spring, beautiful spring. An appropriate name for this season, Dominic said, laughing cheerfully. Heh. Well, it's exactly as Dominic says. There's nothing to be discouraged about, Lord Rio, Ursula agreed with a gentle smile. The other elders nodded, too, letting a bright atmosphere naturally fall upon the room. Thank you very much. Honestly, I pondered quite a bit over whether I should have returned to the village at this point in time. But when it came to Asia and the other 3 I'm protecting, I was hoping I could get some information and help from everyone here, so I decided to visit. While I doubt we will be much help regarding Lady Asia, it may do you some good to visit the Great Dryas with her. Bring her to the village anytime, Sildora said with a pensive look. However, if I were to bring Asia to this land, it would become necessary to bring the 3 under my care along as well, Rio said, watching Sildora and the others carefully. They are your companions, after all. You are free to bring not only Lady Asia, but the others as well. We will do whatever is in our power to assist you. I'm sure you currently have your hands full with those 3, no? Sildora said, adopting a welcoming attitude toward Maharu and the others. Yes. The 3 of them wished to seek the other 2 from whom they were separated from if they did in fact end up in this world and return to their own world, but as of right now we're completely unable to progress. Above all else, I currently have no knowledge about time-space sorcery that can cross worlds. I was hoping that the people here who use time-space sorcery would be able to provide some clues to how they can be returned to their own world. To be honest, we also have no idea about time-space sorcery that allows for teleportation across worlds. Of course, we will scrounge through the old texts in our village, but it may be best not to get your hopes up. No, that is more than I could ask for. I had actually feared you wouldn't allow a complete outsider into the village. I truly do not have enough words to express my gratitude. Chem. With regards to the three, we'll have to have them agree to a contract of complete confidentiality for when they return to Straw after having gained knowledge of us. I'm sorry, but the existence of the village cannot be exposed, Sildora explained. Of course. I'll make sure to explain it to them myself, Rio agreed reassuringly. Their stay had been accepted with merely that as a condition. It was not an exceptional request. Well, you have watched over them for a while now, and decided to seek help from us on their behalf. I have no concerns with regard to their personalities. There should be no problem, Ursula offered pleasantly, the corners of her lips turned up in a smile. Ursula is right, Sildora said, followed by the nods of Dominic and the other elders. I am most honored by your faith in me. Rio bowed his head deeply, his heart filled with emotion. He was, quite simply, so grateful at how he was able to meet such people who believed in him without any doubts in their minds. Now that that's decided, we must prepare to welcome Lady Asia and the others. We must also inform the great Dryas of her. Dominic changed the topic heartily, as though to clear the intimate air that had come between them. That's right. Will you be returning to Straw immediately, Lord Rio? Sildora asked, latching onto Dominic's subject change. Yes, I don't want to keep them waiting for too long. I intend on departing again within a few days. Then, make sure you stay in the village today, as there's much more we'd like to discuss about Lady Asia and the three otherworlders. Of course. Their conversation continued into the afternoon over a light meal. Rio told them various things about Asia, then decided with the elders what rules would be in place for Miharu, Oki, and Masato's visit to the village. By the time their discussions had concluded, it had already become evening, so they decided to call it a day. Rio ended up staying at Ursula's house that night. After dinner, he was told to rest and relax, which probably meant to look after Latifa. Rio called her over to the room he was staying in to speak with her alone. Latifa had looked somber ever since the midway point of the discussions, so he needed to explain a few things to her. Hey, Latifa. Could you understand the discussion today? Rio said as he watched her expression. The two of them sat in chairs facing each other. Latifa nodded uncomfortably. Yeah, I could. Those people are Japanese people, too, aren't they? She asked timidly. Yes, they're Japanese. Does that mean you told them about how you used to be Japanese, too, Onii-chan? Rio nodded with a bitter smile. That's right. If I didn't tell them, they'd wonder about how they were able to communicate with me. HMPH. But it was a secret just between Onii-chan and me. Latifa pouted her lips somewhat unhappily. Are you mad? It's not that I'm mad, but… Rio smiled in faint amusement. I see. MGR. What are you laughing at? At how cute you are, I guess. That's not fair, Onii-chan, Latifa mumbled quietly, giving Rio an admonishing glare. What is? Nothing. Listen, Latifa. Just because other people who know about Japan have appeared doesn't mean that our relationship will change. Isn't that right? Rio offered persuadingly with a smile as he watched her sulk. Yeah, nothing will change how special you are to me. Yeah, that's why I hope you won't be too shocked by this. Do you remember how I told you about my past life before? About the childhood friend I loved, and the little sister that moved away when my parents divorced? Chem. I remember that. Latifa inclined her head curiously. The truth is, two of the three people I'm looking after right now are those two people. Ayas Miharu. The person I always loved when I was Amakawa Haruto. Well, she probably doesn't remember me anymore. Also, Amakawa, no, Sendo Oki. We only lived together for 3 years, but she was my little sister. I doubt she remembers anything about me, either. I'm not sure if it's a coincidence, but they're two of the three people that are currently in my care, Rio explained slowly to a confused Latifa. Hey. Then, did you tell them? Did you tell those two about yourself? Not long after Latifa understood the explanation did she start firing back questions in shock. Ryo shook his head calmly. No, I didn't tell them I had the memories of someone named Amakawa Haruto. I didn't think it was the right time to tell them that, he said in a somewhat troubled voice. Oh, okay. But, why? Latifa asked hoarsely. I don't want to confuse them too much right now. Their mental state wouldn't be the most stable, having suddenly been brought to an unknown world. You used to be the same too, Latifa. Right. Ryo answered with his sound reasoning. Latifa was at a loss for words. Ryo had a point, however, Latifa didn't believe that Ryo was being honest, despite the fact that he hadn't lied to her. Was Ryo really fine with things that way? She didn't know. That's why I'd like to ask you to hide your past life from these 3 people for a while, too. Of course, I won't forbid you from telling them if you insist on doing so, but I'd like you to stay absolutely quiet about my past life. Can you promise me that? Ryo asked, showing her a glimpse of the guilt he felt. Onii-chan, you actually want to tell them, don't you? Latifa murmured, asking after Ryo's true feelings instead. That's not true. Ryo shook his head with a bittersweet smile. Tell me how you really feel, Onii-chan. Otherwise, I won't promise you, Latifa persisted. I want to keep my previous life a secret, just between me and you, I guess, Ryo said with a strained expression, speaking truthfully. That's unfair. That's so unfair of you, Oni-chan, Latifa murmured in a trembling voice, appearing as though she was on the verge of tears. She was unable to decide if Ryo was lying or not. 2 days later, Ryo departed from the village once again to make his return trip to the Straw region. He chose the square before the town hall as his departure point, with Latifa, Sarah, Orphea, Alma, Ursula, Sildora, and Dominic there to see him off. All right, everyone, I'll be going now. I should be back in roughly 2 weeks, Ryo said cheerfully to the 7 of them. Take care of yourself, Ursula replied on behalf of the head elders, supported by the nods of the other 2. We'll clean up the house where your guests will stay, Sarah said, and make the preparations for their welcome, Orphea added. Alma chimed in. I'll take care of the daily necessities. The 3 girls seemed excited to meet the humans that would be coming. Have a safe trip, Onii-chan, Latifa offered quietly. Thanks. I'll be back soon. Don't worry, there's nothing to be scared of. Ryo petted Latifa's head gently. She stepped forward and buried her face into his chest. Ho, it seems like she's still at that age where she wants to be doted on, Ursula mused, watching Latifa with a smile. Naturally, Ursula had also noticed that Latifa was acting strangely after Ryo's discussion with the elders, but she had refrained from intruding, and left the 2 to solve it amongst themselves. It was how the 2 of them had always done it, after all. She might be worried that her precious big brother will be taken from her by these newcomers. There's a girl the same age as her, too, Sarah giggled. The others gazed at Latifa. I don't know what you're talking about, Latifa mumbled quietly, tightening her grip around Ryo. He made a torn expression as he hugged her, patting her back gently to calm her down. Eventually, her grip loosened. Okay. I'm going now, Latifa. Ryo slowly stepped back from Latifa and spoke kindly. Yeah. I'll be waiting. Latifa gave a small nod. 2 weeks later, in a forest on the western outskirts of Amand, a creeper-looking man in a black robe stood in an area off the road, somewhere no regular citizens would ever pass through. His name was Reese. Surrounding him was a swarm of creatures that had humanoid shapes. 8 had ashen-colored skin and 4 had skin that was dark to the point of appearing black, each groaning in eerily low tones. Foo foo foo. As expected of the city home to the Rika Guild, the adventurers working here are all of excellent quality. I've obtained some good material thanks to that, Reese said to himself proudly as he looked at the grotesque creatures. Go, now. Form groups of 3 and search the forest outskirts of Amand for people that have as much essence as possible. Capture them alive and bring them here. However, make sure to avoid attacking those that have a higher essence than you. Kill as many witnesses as you need to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. I will take care of the western side, so you lot split off into the other directions to search. Your time limit is until sunset tomorrow. The strangely shaped creatures began to move as though they understood Reese's words. Gruff. They formed 4 groups of 2 grey-skinned creatures to 1 dark-skinned leader, then set off at an unbelievably light and fast sprint. Now, once I reach the necessary number of material bodies with this next run, the time will be right. After this last batch, I'll have to make sure to lie low for a while, Reese said with annoyance in his voice, left alone by himself once the figures of the creatures had melted away into the forest. His eyes were completely vacant.